In technology, we have our Year 7s working on an electronic dice project, which is a programmable dice that the students solder and build together, build up, and then they build an enclosure for that as well. So there's electronics and there's a little bit of programming in that as well as along with the hand skills. And then our Year 8s are currently using 3D software and the 3D printers to build their own head torches.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I imagine that projects like that are exciting for the students as well. Like, it's not just like making a tray or something
Yes,
like that.
they are exciting, and especially this year, these are 2 new projects.
Yeah.
So we've had quite a few students from the older year levels saying, "Oh, I wish we could have been doing that," you know. So they are good, and we find that these sorts of projects aren't just exciting at school, but when they go home. So lots really nice conversations with family members about the processes and what the students learned, and we get really good feedback at parent-teacher interviews about these new projects like that. So yeah, lots of parents wishing they could do them as well. Yeah.
And even that blend of some of that old technology and use, so that they were making the pencil boxes, which is fairly traditional, like we made them back at the school, but they were using the laser cutter to engrave designs on the top. So we've got that cutting edge technology with the laser cutter.
Yes.
But that blend with the old stuff too. So some of those older skills are still there, but being, you know, revitalised.
Absolutely.
And made more interesting.
Traditional hand skills. So the box they make is a rebated joint box, and then I didn't neglect to say that the students cut the top, the acrylic plastic out with the laser cutter, and then they insert the electronics and put it all together. So it's a really multi-faceted project.
And that's the whole underpinning thing behind STEM, is how can science, technology, engineering, arts, maths make life better. You know, like some of the stuff that we talk about in relation to the 3D printers with the kids that we don't actually do ourselves are things like the projects for designing, you know, prosthetic limbs for students, and where kids have actually gone in at a university level, the kids who need the limbs are working with art students, maths students, science students, computer science students, and they will get their own personalised prosthetic for a fraction of the price, and usually with some sort of superhero feature that the kids want. So to say to the kids, hey, we're doing this in the classroom, but this is where it fits in the wider world, is really cool.
At the moment, what we're doing in science is having the maker space at lunchtime, which is just behind you there, where we've got the 3D printers going. At the start of the year we had 1 3D printer, and we've now built up to 6. 2 of those are dual head printers that the kids can make multicoloured models. So what the 3D printer allows the kids to do is think of something that's a 3-dimensional shape. They can design it themselves, or they can find something off the internet, and then they can print that out. And we're going to slowly skill the kids up to design their own things. At the moment we've got an awful lot of fidget spinners being made, but the kids love them, and it's getting kids doing something that they've never done before. In the past, if they wanted a fidget spinner, they had to buy it. Now they can design their own, they can customise it, and they can print it out at school.
Yeah, I could almost start a business.
There has been talk about that. Now we've got 6, some students have done that. In fact, if I talk about some business applications, last year one of the Money Matters groups, they used the old 3D printer that we had, and they were making lockable USB holders. So they were designing those and printing them out here. What held them back with really getting that off the ground was that we only had 1 3D printer, so they could only print out probably 1 or 2 models a week. Now that we've got the 6, it's much more of a realistic project. The things are cheap, the plastic only costs a couple of dollars each model. They will be able to scale up this year. Yeah.
It's the other things we have in the maker space. We have the little bits out for the kids to experiment with electronics all the time.
Yep.
So there's a lot of really organic conversations and excitement happening in this space at a lunchtime between the 3D printers, the spheros, the robots. There's a lot going on that's play, and that's where you're going to experiment and take risks. Kids aren't always willing to do it in the classroom, but they will do it in the maker space.
Well, what's clearly a reoccurring topic among you all is innovation.
Yes.
Can you tell me some more about where innovation's happening within each of your programs?
I'm going to go for maths, because maths doesn't tend to be terribly innovative. I think sometimes, quite often we all went through do the left-hand side of the book. So we're doing a lot of programs that aren't necessarily science and technology, but about building that growth mindset, which then makes it much easier for kids to be willing to innovate. So things like the Maths Pathway program, where we're targeting kids at their level of need and building their confidence and growing their maths skills, so they're then willing to take more risks, I think is a really big innovation that obviously is leveraged by technology that other people have used to address a problem that they can see. We're doing a similar thing in the Year 9 area with another program that we're looking at to allow students to access real life applications of maths. We're starting to run some extension groups where we withdraw kids and look at problem solving, so we're trying to extend our brightest kids, because quite often they'll go, yes, I've done the work, I've done that fast, and that's all I need to do, rather than going, let's think outside the box. Not all maths has one answer, not all maths can be answered in one period. So trying to build some of those broad problem solving skills, I think, within the maths department is something that we're really proud of this year. In our digital technologies department, which is a really small department and a fairly fresh department, with the Year 7s we've really changed our focus from how do you drive PowerPoint and Excel and those sorts of things to what's the thinking behind computer programming, how do I decompose a problem into smaller bits, how can I relate this problem to problems that I've solved before, how did I solve them before, how can they be solved more efficiently, and they've then been able to apply that in things like data analysis and creating those infographics that we all see on Facebook. They're working on designing apps for Android phones at the moment, and it's been so exciting. I've had 3 kids in today when we've got no kids at school who've come in because they're excited, they want extra help, and they've sat up there for 2 hours this morning to get things perfect because they're so excited by what they're doing. So, yeah.
Okay, so the spaghetti machine has been run by Nigel Bailey for the past, I reckon, is it 6 years that he's done that?
Yeah.
So they design what a spaghetti machine is. It's a machine that does something simple, but is in many steps as you can. So one year they had to fill a bowl with milk and cereal.
Yeah.
And the number of steps and the things that happened to fill this bowl with cereal were amazing.
So it's like the start of Wallace and Gromit, where Wallace has
Yes.
that really complicated system for putting his pants on and making his toast.
Yes.
It's as complicated as you can make it, the more steps you can put in, but you're actually confined by a particular area. I think it's...
Yes.
And really importantly, most of the other schools that participate in this are based in Melbourne. They don't have to move their machine very far. And, yes, they're great in what they do, but ours has to travel, 300 k's in the back of a ute. It has to be really robust. So we've always had comments from the judges about the way that the students have chosen to solve problems and the level of complexity of some of the engineering that goes into it, because of course it has to survive the bumpy road up to Melbourne and back again.
Our school has kids involved from Year 7 up to Year 12, whereas quite a few of the other schools it's just Year 10 students. So yeah, and they really work together, the older kids, to show the younger kids how to do it. They scaffold it, our kids present it themselves, they really take ownership of it. They have their own ideas, their own little
There's quirks every
little
year,
quirks
yes.
that are built into the machine that the kids just love. And they're really enthusiastic about it, aren't they? And we're planning to showcase that locally at the Maker Fest that's happening on the 20th of October this year at TAFE. So that'll be a second outing for it this year. We haven't done that. That hasn't been available to us in the past.
Actually, yeah, from an innovative point of view in ag, we have changed around our paddocks. We've had a significant amount of fencing done, which will allow us to rotate the grass differently, and those are sorts of conversations you can have with students about how an actual farm works and controls their feed for the season and the growth of the animals. We are looking at, especially next semester, we're looking at trialling, when we rear our calves, we're looking at trialling some that are on fortified milk as opposed to some that are on normal milk, and tracking their growth rates and things like that, and comparing a cost-benefit analysis, I suppose, of that situation. So ag's moving on really well with those sorts of things.
And there's scope there to innovate, I guess, link that to some of the innovations in technology. There's farms around the area now where, when cows go to be milked, that, if any change in weight's been detected beyond a certain amount, they can be directed to a different sort of area, so you can then check the health of animals better, so linking those into excursions so the kids can link that into animal health. Things like drones, obviously drones, we have them in the library to muck around and play with,
Yes.
and Science Club love them, but there's growing scope for ag to go, well, how are drones used in the agriculture sphere? So certainly you can look at the programming of, you know, tractors, harvesters, detecting weeds, looking at larger scale areas, you know, if we looked at some of the models of the Northern Territory and some of their stations there. So there's lots of ways that we can link two areas that seem at times to be very disparate, to link them so kids can see the meaning. Okay, so I sit in an IT class and I'm really bored with the idea of how I program an app. But if I understand I can program a drone to do this in this sphere that I'm really interested in, we're going to build kids' appreciation of the fact that IT is everywhere. It's just a case of exploit it for what your passion is. I know Google, when they're talking to students about careers, calls it CS plus X. Computer science plus X, whatever your passion is. So let's get the IT and find your passion. How can your passion be driven by IT? So, I have girls in year 10 who go, I love fashion. Okay, how can you take that love of fashion and become the next Instagram star, get all your advertising paid for so you can work from home and buy lots of new stuff? Can you use it to, promote designs that you've made in textiles? Can we integrate, things like programming into the textile projects so that your flashy top flashes different messages, So there's a lot of things that are just sort of starting to be able to be thought about in a classroom setting. So we're seeing the next couple of years as being really exciting with all these things that have just got to the stage where they're affordable and feasible in a classroom where, 2 or 3 years ago it wasn't conceptually possible that we'd be able to do these things in a classroom setting.
But with the fashion, they can even now design their own clips and holders and 3D print those out. There's those scopes for designing parts of dresses in new ways.
Yeah, the laser cutter can engrave through leather, cut through text in different ways. So there's a case of our staff having to develop skills across multiple areas that they would have said, I'm sure quite often sewing teachers would have said, well, I'm not a computer person, but no, you can use these tools, and starting to highlight to the kids that these tools are applicable across lots of different areas.
Yeah.
And that's interesting what you're saying about staff having to upskill, and that's innovation at Emmanuel College in technology and food studies is centered around our staff. We have the laser cutter, we have the 3D printing capabilities, we have programming that we're saying in our faculty meetings, this is the stuff that we have to teach. What are we going to do? How are we going to deliver it? And there's also not just this high-tech innovation, there's also innovation in OH&S and best practice areas. So when we move down into the new Industrial Skills Centre, we've purchased, the brand's called Festool, and it's ultra-safe equipment for Year 9s and above to do all of their own cutting and all of their own routing. It's table-based equipment that is best practice, minimal exposure to harm, and it means that senior students aren't handing the technicians a cutting list anymore for a coffee table or a shelf or something. They're cutting it all out themselves, and what we're finding is the learning opportunities are increasing because some students mightn't account for the blade thickness, so they cut their timber out and it's short. Well, they have to adjust for that now and fix that up. So there's those innovations as well, and then in food science, things like us keeping up with modern technology. So this week we take delivery of 2 new thermomixers. So the staff are looking at how we're using these. They're going to innovate the ways that they actually prepare the materials for the classes, and they're looking at expanding how to use them machines with the students, linking in with how they might be used at home, but also, say, a new unit we're running next year is food for nutrition. So the students will be making their own energy gels using the thermomixers and things like this. So there's, it's almost sometimes let's get some of this gear and then let's work out what to do with it. Yeah.
This was amazing because when I went to school, this was the stuff that you would expect to do at uni.
Yes, it's filtering down.
Yeah.
Just that the clothing. There's a big push. They're talking about the textiles, things like that. Smart clothes.
Yeah.
So clothes that monitor your heart rate, your body temperature. Clothes with indicators on the back for riders. it's a data-driven society now. We all want to know our heart rate for the day and our steps and things, and it's going now from watches to the actual clothing that you're wearing, smart shoes, things like that. So.
We've got a group of 10 girls actually going out next week on an excursion to Melbourne to promote STEM opportunities for girls and why you need to stay engaged in maths and how many different pathways there are in maths, and that's taking up the morning. In the afternoon we've actually organised for them to do a workshop at La Trobe Uni where they will be constructing their own wearables. So they're making those, they're bringing those back. We've also proposed a new elective for next year because we realise that girls are not involved in the STEM related subjects to the same level as everybody else. In fact, although the Year 7s tend to outshine the boys in lots of areas in Year 7 IT, none of them choose it in Year 8. It's been 2 years since we've had a girl do a Year 12 IT subject. IT is an area that is very flexible, very keen to have more females in it, and for us we've been trying to go, how do we leverage girls' interests to get them into these fields? So next year we're running a Year 9 elective for the first time called Girls in Tech. So rather than the traditional game design stuff that we've tended to do to hook the boys in, we're going to work on things like wearables, like websites, you know, how you'd manage your Instagram account, lots of things that are going to hopefully appeal to girls. Really excitingly, we've just organised to purchase the Now robot, which is a fantastic robot. You know, humanoid movement, can speak in lots of different languages, can be programmed by beginners with drag and drop technology, so our Year 7s can use it, can be programmed by our Year 11 and 12 students using a programming language. So we can see that progression from, first of all, just logical thinking and problem solving to simple programming with blocks, to then a well-developed understanding of a programming language that would be used at uni and in industry, and our 11s and 12s can do that. There's scope to take that into lots of different languages. You know, can I program the robot so that in Year 10 English, when I show it a picture of a dagger, it quotes Macbeth for their novel? You know, is that a dagger I see before me? You know, there's scope to have it in French and have it repeat phrases back in French, so the kids are actually programming, testing subject-specific language, but bringing the IT into it. So we're really looking forward to that robot arriving.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Will it mark exams?
No, we do that with our phone.
Yes, we use that.
As staff, we've worked out that we can create multiple choice parts of the exam, and we mark that with our phone. It takes 7 minutes to mark 200 multiple choice exams and email the results out to each teacher.
So what I love about that part is that doing that is that afterwards we've got the data and we can say, so students have really mastered these concepts.
Yep.
And this is the one that we need to work on for next year, and then we can go through the whole exam. Whereas if we'd done that by hand for 200 papers,
we'd be bald instead of grey.
Yes, and we wouldn't get to do other things.
Sorry,
that was my problem. Too many exams.
Too many exams. Yeah.
Well, now just what's most popular among students at the moment? What's attracting their attention?
The fidget spinners for 3D printing.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think the head torch model that I've done with the Year 8s was a slow start, and when it really took off was when they printed their first batch.
Yes.
And then they realised all the mistakes, which was a fantastic learning opportunity and something that I had discussed with them that would definitely happen. So simple things like where they'd measured their battery compartment, and they thought they'd dragged another shape, they'd actually distorted that, printed it out, and went, now my batteries don't fit. So it showed them that what was on the screen is something they're now holding, and they're saying, this is not right. Go back, check that, that's what I did. And so while it's it is exciting, and the kids love putting these torches on and blinding each other and having a fun time, they are actually excited about the learning, and it's really nice discussions. Because when some of these kids make these mistakes, you can say, well, you know, Jared did the same thing. Why don't you shoot over and get him to show you? And it reinforces. It's that see one, do one, teach one. So, there's lots of things that the kids think are fun in these areas, but they're inadvertently learning lots as well. And I, in the past with this Festool equipment I mentioned before, I've used it previously, and it's the same thing with that. Kids have this freedom now because they're using this awesome equipment, and you get the ones that cut it a bit short, and you can send off other kids to these guys who are now experts that say, I did that. What you've got to do is you actually got to measure from this side and slide it along here, and so they enjoy using that equipment that seems so specialist. Yeah.
Obviously, we have a range of kids with a range of different interests. I mean, you come in here of a lunchtime and there's the kids clustered around the 3D printers who are wanting to, make their fidget spinners. You've got the chess club over the side who are very academic, and then, how can I beat the computer playing chess if I'm playing the computer, as opposed to another student. You've got the kids playing with the spheros. Some of them are just at the remote control stage. Others are going, how can I make? How does it do? So that questioning there. And then obviously some of the innovations that are happening in different areas that are trying to leverage off other interests. So how can we link the sport back to the science, the maths, the technology? How can we link it back to food? How can we link it back to the other electives? Because we have, over 1,200 students here, we've got a lot of different passions, and it's trying to relate those to these areas.
Well, then flip that over a bit. Is there an area of science or technology that you would encourage more students to get involved in?
I would say everything, but I have to, have a shout out to our forensic science at Year 9. That was floated a couple of years ago as Year 9s aren't terribly interested in science, what else could we do? So this forensic elective was floated, and the teacher who got it first has run with it to the extent that he's developed a curriculum that he's asked to go and talk about at statewide conferences. So we now have, I think, 3 classes most years. So of the 180 or however many kids in Year 9, 3 full classes, so 75 or more kids are choosing this elective every year. So a lot of them are stepping into that science area. We've certainly got some STEM electives where we're trying to link that 3D printing in with some electronics, some coding, some broader problem solving things that sometimes are basic technology. Okay, if I had to go out to a remote village and there was a problem with water quality, what can I do with the resources that are currently there? How can we engineer simple solutions? So highlighting to kids that science has meaning and impacts on people's life. It's not just, pracs, Bunsen burner and an exam. So I think, we'd really love the kids to engage with the science electives, and they do. It's, I guess, and for every area of teaching in every school, making kids see that it has some meaning outside of school. When we get that happening, that's when the magic happens. So,
it certainly sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
very real world stuff you've been speaking.
When we talk about 3D printing, for people who don't really understand, there's a lot of things in the background before you 3D print something. So settling on a program that is accessible for students at school and at home, and we've stuck with one that is a really good program to use, and I'm finding that probably more than 50% of the students in the classes where we're using it are doing stuff at home on that. So I'm getting emails saying, can you have a look at this file? I can't get this and that centered. And so while there's kids not running around shouting 3D printing, yay, it's still very popular, and it's something that probably years ago, kids might have gone home and done Dick Smith electronic kits, or they might have gone out to their shed and hammered some wood together or something. It's just that technological advance where kids are actually going home, opening their computers and going, I'm going to design something here. And then the 3D printing is the final product of that. So I think that with us introducing this to the students and showing them how accessible it is, lots of them are just really flying with it. So, and it's very interesting for them.
I'm looking forward to seeing, we've got the Raspberry Pi programming elective running for the first time this year, which is a new initiative in the IT department. So the Raspberry Pi is a small, very cheap computer that you can then program and integrate into larger projects. So we're doing it as a way of introducing programming in a language to the kids rather than drag and drop. but there's potential there to build that into bigger things, like can you turn it into your own mobile, can you turn it into a stereo system, can you turn it into an alarm that goes off whenever your little brother goes into the room. And so after that initial programming where we all do the same sorts of things, like this week we'll make a weather sensor, next week we'll do something else, they'll have, you know, that initial period where they've got supported exploration, and then it will be, here's a whole heap of things we think you can do, and the internet's there to tell you a whole heap of other things. What do you want to do? And we won't be the experts.
No.
I can't tell you every step. I can work with you, we can figure it out, we can problem solve. Does it matter if it doesn't work? Hell no. You're going to learn from the process, and so I think that's going to be a really exciting elective when it runs next semester.
And that's where it complements with we've got the Inter-Science program. We piloted it first semester. The Inter-Science program links university students that want to help with high school students, and they meet for about half an hour a week, so they can talk about whatever they're interested in, and they try and match the kids up with a university student that's got similar interests. So if we've got ones who want to design whatever, we can link them up with a uni student that
In
can
the
give
computer
them
science
in
area,
computer
yeah.
science area that can help them develop
Yeah.
that further beyond what we can do as well.
Yeah.
So it gives them more opportunities outside of us.
And there's opportunities for cross-curriculum work that follows on. So the Raspberry Pi computing, microcomputer control, some of those students could come to woodwork after that session and say, I want to use the Raspberry Pi to make a retro gaming system. So we can use 2D drafting, design a cabinet, they can cut that out and assemble it, and then they can put their Raspberry Pi system into that and have a gaming system and things like that. So I think in the future there'll be a lot more follow-on from, or potential follow-on, where in subjects like the computer programming, they kids can learn that what they do in here with negotiation with their teacher in their next semester's subject, they may implement some of that stuff across into there, and we've got that flexibility. It's really good.
And that's probably the thing that I love most about teaching at Emmanuel, is that we've got a group of very excited staff who are willing to play, experiment and innovate themselves and go, we don't have to be the experts. There's a lot of learning in partnership with the kids. There's a lot of teachers having conversations about, how could I make this better? How could I make this more interesting? Such and such has asked me about this. So the fact that staff are really keen to learn new things to help the kids explore new areas, I think, you know.
Yes, that learning in partnership is a great word. Often you're working side by side with a student saying, I'm not sure, let's Google it, grab out, let's go, what did this guy say? All right, well, let's try this. And they sort of will look at you, you don't know this? And you say, no. But now we both know, so let's go. So it's just, there's a freedom to do that here. It's just fantastic.
Okay, well this is probably my last question, because I heard that at a recent information night that you, Cindy, did a tremendous job of marrying like how maths and music support each other. I'm just wondering if you could tell me a bit about that.
Oh my goodness. You can tell I think on the fly. So I think with both of them, what I was talking about was the fact that you take risks, you practice, you get better. I mean, there's lots of scientific studies that tell you that music complements maths and brain development, but the neuroscience of it aside, with both of them, it's that growth mindset thing. I am only at this point now, it's never that I suck at anything. I never suck at anything. I just have more potential to get better in some areas. And so that was what we were speaking about when we were introducing both the music program, that as a parent you're going to listen to some horrid screeches from some instruments, but you don't say that's a horrid screech. You go, I heard that really good note in there. Forget the other 20 minutes of torture. Go and hang the washing on the line, but you know, praise that good bit. The same with the maths. Okay, it doesn't matter if there's a student working on grade 1 number lines while their classmates are working on fractions. That's really great that you got that skill. Where do we go next? And we're finding that that's just making, you know, wonderful changes in the maths classroom at 7 and 8. I've got students who are coming to me going, what next, who have come in really far behind, who are now confident to pop their hand up and answer questions about the at-level stuff, because they know, they feel safe, they know they've improved. Everybody's good at it. everybody's good at it as long as they keep working. I mean, you know, you've got to throw that little bit of reality, and I heard another one of my colleagues talk about growth mindset and say, yes, okay, you don't say I suck at things, but there are some things that no matter how hard you try, you won't do any better. And her example was, for example, I'll never be 6 foot tall. I can't do anything about that, but can I do anything about my ability to play a musical instrument, sing, do maths better? Yes, I can. I might, if I'm comparing to myself to someone else, still not think that I'm fantastic, but I'll know that I'm better than where I was originally. So, yeah.
Always trying to blend traditional practical skills with current trade practices or industry practices, and then with possibly potential.
Yeah.
So
Future-proofing.
yeah, and the programming stuff behind STEM is where it's at for that. It's making students understand that, okay, even a vending machine, well, how does it know when you press that button that coordinate is going to turn that thing and drop that food out? So it's just digging a little bit deeper with that, saying, well, you know, 20 years ago you put it in and you pulled the lever, and now that's done that. 10 years time you'll probably just walk up, thumbprint it, and say, I'd like a Coke please, and it'll come out. So talking about past, present and future. Yeah. Yeah, look, at Emmanuel College, if you suggest to any staff or leadership, I'm thinking about this, it's met with, tell me more, you know, every time. And